Warning, this video contains stories about injury and even deaths. Viewer discretion is advised. I was there for the death on the Alpine slide. I was the one who called 911 and stayed with George till the paramedics arrived 45 minutes later. Wow, this is crazy.
2, 1, go!
I had to get the true story of Action Park. So what did I do as a good reporter? I started looking at people who used to work there, and luckily, I found some people who wanted to be interviewed.
Action Park got a bit of a reputation. Some people got injured.
That was 30 years ago. The world has changed. I mean, when my dad started the park, he was the guy inventing the rides and bringing inventors in. Now it's highly regulated. Everything's engineered.
I love Action Park because it's so beautiful.
Hello everyone, today I will be speaking on Action Park, and this story gets really wild, so I hope you're ready for the ride. Let's hear about the R-rated version of a theme park. In 1976, Gene Mulvihill of Great American Recreation decided to add a new attraction to Vernon's ski resort. He created the Alpine Slide, where people got to control their own speed. They even let infants on it. Seeing how business was booming, in the summer he wanted to create some things also, so he decided to create a water park. This water park had 75 rides, 40 water slides. This led to Action Park. Before we get into the attractions of Motorworld, this is where one of my interviews comes into place. I spoke with a man named Pat, and he said that working there was an amazing experience. But some backlash that Action Park got was they had young kids working rides that maybe they shouldn't. I'm sure this guy was a great worker, but he started at 15 as a tank attendant and worked his way up all the way till he was 22 as an Alpine Center manager. The first attraction was Battle Action Tanks. They actually shot tennis balls at one another. This sounds like a lot of fun, but the issue was they would break down all the time. The second attraction was the go-karts. They were only supposed to go 20 miles per hour, but employees would stick tennis balls inside of them, which caused them to go 50 miles per hour. And one night, a kid even took one out on the highway. The big issue was there was alcohol right beside this attraction, and teens would drive drunk all the time. The final attraction were bumper boats. Yeah, they sound like fun, but the issue was there were snakes all around them inside this pond. The Alpine attractions had all different fun shows and rides, most importantly the Alpine Slide, which we will get to later in our video. But where were the most dangerous rides located? Let's talk about Motorworld. Motorworld had it all, but it was most notorious for its wave pool, also known as the Grave Pool. It could fit between 500 to 1,000 people. The waves would come up over 3 feet. There were 12 lifeguards at a time, and lifeguards would have to save up to about 30 people every shift that they worked. Now, I love wave pools now, but when I was younger, I'd say about 9 or 10, I was at the wave pool at Six Flags Great Escape in Lake George, and it was my first time ever in a wave pool. I went to the deep end and I honestly almost drowned because the waves just kept crashing on me. I'm a little guy now, but back then I was really little and it was really scary. I was also able to interview someone who worked at the wave pool. His name is Ron. He told me that he loved his job and that what was going on amongst the controversy higher up, it didn't really trickle down to the staff, which is good. He said that one summer he had a total of 62 saves. He saved 62 lives. That's crazy. He said on a weekend they could get up to 25,000 people in attendance. And one of the funny things he said was they could spot people from the city a mile away, and he knew that they would have to be saved eventually that day. And we'll come back to Ron later in this video. Another popular attraction was the Tarzan swing, which was also dangerous. It was 30 feet in the air, and when people would land in the water, they would have to get saved because they would go into shock because the water was so cold. Also, if you didn't cross your arms across your chest when you landed, your arms would dislocate because of how hard you were hitting the water. The big issue was people could just swim in the water also, so people would get concussions because they would land on top of people after they jumped off. Now this is my personal favorite, the Cannonball Loop. Essentially, it is what it sounds like. You would slide down the slide, you would go upside down, and a lot of people got hurt. When it first got tested, they put a crash test dummy down it, and the crash test dummy lost its head, no joke. The owner, Gene, would pay $100 to anyone who was willing to test it out before they let it open to the public. Kids would get concussions, kids would even lose their teeth, and they had to build a hatch at the top of the slide if people weighed too much or they were too tall because they would get stuck. Now back to Ron again. He actually told me that he tested out the Cannonball Loop all the time and he enjoyed it. He said one time though he got some serious road rash while doing it. I don't know about you guys, but I honestly would love to try this. Me and my friend John were actually talking about it. If they actually had one of these, I totally would go and do it. Once again, viewer discretion is advised because I will be talking about the deaths that happened at the park. So I believe there were 6, I think. And I believe 3 happened in the wave pool just from people drowning. The Tarzan swing where people would jump 30 feet from the swing itself. A person had a heart attack because of how cold it was. Also, the alpine slide that I spoke about, a kid was going down, he was going too fast, or his cart came off the bearings of the slide. He flew off, he ended up hitting his head on a rock, and that's the guy I interviewed. He said that he was with him the 45 minutes that it took the paramedics to get there. I don't know if he passed away instantly or, eventually later, but having to be there with him while that was going on had to be really tough.
My brother was invincible because of how strong we were. On July 8th, 1980, my brother George was supposed to be working with my dad and I.
He wanted to go to Action Park. So I loaned him the money in the afternoon, and a friend of his went over there to meet him. And they were just going to have fun that day.
He goes onto the alpine slide, and he's going down the hillside, and the cart brake, I don't believe, was working, and he went off the track and flipping down the hillside and into some rocks and hit his head on rocks.
And I had a phone call. I'll never forget it. I was sitting at home. I was looking forward to watching a movie. They said, your son has been injured. He's in the trauma center. And they told me that what I had to do was get a neighbor or somebody to bring me because my husband was on a sales call that night.
And finally, a death happened when someone fell out of their kayak on one of the attractions. There was a loose wire, a loose electric wire, and I believe the guy's leg touched it, and he got shocked and went into cardiac arrest and ended up passing away.
The kayak experience. I later came to learn that that is the one where someone was electrocuted to death.
There were underwater fans that would help push the water and created rapids like you were kayaking, and somebody flipped out of one of their kayaks and one of these fans short-circuited, and they either touched it or were close enough to it and they got electrocuted.
Now, I know you're probably wondering, how did Gene Mulvihill get away with all this and continue to stay open? Well, basically, he created his own fake insurance company located in the Caymans, and he would either win all of his cases in court, or people just wouldn't want to go into court because he refused to lose these cases. He ended up getting in a lot of trouble for this. There were so many injuries that happened all the time, and more than half would not get reported unless they were leaving in an ambulance. And it got so bad that Action Park, Gene bought a couple ambulances for the town because they would have to come there every day and definitely every weekend. So yeah, that's basically the story of Action Park, and it ended up closing in 1996, not because of everything that was going on with the injuries and deaths, but because the company just couldn't afford it anymore. So I'm going to close with this. I got the opportunity to actually speak with the director, Seth, of Class Action Park, the movie based on this. Definitely recommend watching. And he's really busy, so obviously I just wanted to get a quote from him. And he said that looking back at it, he used to go, and it's so scary thinking now how dangerous it actually was and how it's hard to come to terms looking back. Oh, you're having so much fun as a kid, but now that you're a mature grown adult, thinking, wow, that place was pretty messed up. So I'm going to leave you with this, guys. Would you go to Action Park if it was still open with all those rides? I honestly probably would. I think it'd be crazy to do. I know a bunch of my friends would be down to do it. But unfortunately, the same park is not there anymore. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Peace out, guys.